$800,000 sounds like a lot until you actually do the math on what it has to cover. That's the sentence, isn't it? That's the one that finds you at 3 in the morning. You worked 40 years for that number. You did what you were supposed to do. You saved when your friends spent. You maxed the 401k when it hurt. You drove the old car an extra 5 years. And now you're 67, the account finally says 800,000. And instead of feeling safe, you feel like you're standing on ice, listening for the crack. Because everywhere you look, somebody's telling you it's not enough. The magazine says you need $1.5 million. The guy on the news says $2 million. Your neighbor's advisor apparently told him 3. And so you sit there with a number most people in this country will never see in their lifetime, and you feel behind. You feel like maybe you've been fooling yourself this whole time. So let's actually find out. No slogans, no scare tactics, no "it depends."
Look,
let's take $800,000 and a real 67-year-old life and run the actual arithmetic. The same math I'd run if you were sitting across my kitchen table. By the end of this, you're going to know, with real numbers, whether you're okay or whether you're kidding yourself. And I think the answer is going to surprise you. But I have to warn you now, there's one number in here that traps almost everyone. It's the reason people with plenty end up terrified. And it's probably the exact thing that's been lying to you. We'll get to it. First, let's put the 800,000 to work. There's an old guideline, you've probably heard of it, called the 4% rule. The short version, in your first year of retirement, you can pull about 4% of your savings, then adjust it a little each year for inflation, and in the large majority of cases, the money lasts 30 years or more. Through recessions, crashes, all of it. 4% of 800,000 is $32,000 a year. That's your first paycheck from the pile you built. Now, 32,000 on its own, okay? That alone might be what's scaring you. That doesn't sound like enough to live on. And you're right, it isn't. But here's the thing, almost nobody puts in the same sentence. That's not your only income. It's not even your biggest. Because at 67, you've also turned on Social Security. And Social Security is not the little supplement you've been picturing in the back of your mind. For someone who earned enough to save $800,000, a benefit somewhere around $2,700, maybe $3,000 a month is completely realistic. Call it $32,000 a year, guaranteed, inflation adjusted, and it does not run out no matter how long you live. Now, I want to be honest with you because that's the whole point of this. The national average benefit is lower than that, closer to $23,000 a year, and the maximum is higher. Your number is your number. You can pull the exact figure in 10 minutes at ssa.gov, and you should tonight. But for a saver like the one we're describing, $32,000 is a fair, honest estimate. So add it up. $32,000 from your savings, $32,000 from Social Security. That's $64,000 a year, and you haven't sold the house, haven't taken a part-time job, haven't touched a single thing you didn't plan to touch. $64,000 a year? Sit with that for a second, because it's a completely different picture than the one that's been keeping you up. And before I show you what that actually covers, because this is where it turns, I want to give you something to keep, whether you watch the rest of this or not. Everything I'm walking through right now, the 4% math, the Social Security timing, the exact order to figure this out for your own life, I put into a plain English guide called You Don't Need $2 Million. It's the 5-line method I use to turn all of this fear into one honest number you calculate yourself at your own table in about an hour. It's not a sales pitch for anything, there's no advisor waiting to call you, and it's built entirely on the real 2026 figures, the same ones in this video. If the 3 in the morning voice is something you know, this is the thing that quiets it. The link's right below this video. Go grab it now, keep it open while you watch the rest, and run your own numbers alongside mine. Okay, back to the 64,000 process because the number isn't the surprising part. What it covers is, here's the trap I warned you about. The reason you feel behind is that somewhere in your head, you're comparing your retirement income to your old salary. You made, say, $95,000 a year at the end, and 64 looks like a pay cut you can't survive. But that comparison is a lie, and it's the single most expensive misunderstanding in all of retirement. Because you were never actually living on $95,000. Look at where that money really went. A giant chunk of it, 15, 20%, you were shoveling straight into retirement savings. You don't do that anymore. That expense is just gone. Payroll taxes, the Social Security and Medicare bite out of every check, cut way down. The mortgage you've been killing for 30 years, if it's paid off, that's the biggest line item in most people's budgets, vanished. The commute, the work clothes, the lunches out, the second car you only kept for the job, gone, 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 gone. When you actually add up what your life costs, not your salary, your life, most people at 67 land somewhere around 55 to 62,000 a year. Not 95. You were never trying to replace 95. You were trying to replace what you spend, and those are two completely different numbers. So watch what happens. Say your real, honest cost of living is 60,000 a year. Your Social Security alone covers 32 of it. That means your 800,000 only has to produce $28,000 a year, not the whole 60. 28,000 out of 800,000 is a withdrawal rate of 3.5%. That's below the 4% line. That's not a portfolio under strain. That's a portfolio with room to breathe, room to grow, room to survive a bad year in the market without you having to sell at the bottom. You're not fooling yourself. On these numbers, you're fine. Genuinely arithmetically fine. And I promised you honesty, so here it is. Fine is not the same as on autopilot. There are three things that can turn this good picture bad, and the only people who get hurt by them are the ones who never saw them coming. So let's see them coming. The first is the early bad year. If the market drops hard in your first few years of retirement, while you're pulling money out, it does far more damage than the same drop 10 years from now, because you're selling shares while they're down and they never fully recover. It even has a name. The professionals call it sequence risk. The fix is almost insultingly simple. Keep a year or two of spending in plain cash. When the market tanks, you live off the cash and leave your investments alone to heal. That one move diffuses the scariest year in retirement. The second is the tax bomb nobody warns you about until it's too late. Right now, in these years before you turn 73, you're likely in the lowest tax bracket you'll ever be in again. But at 73, the government forces you to start pulling money out of your traditional accounts, whether you need it or not. They're called required minimum distributions, and it all gets taxed as income. A big untouched account can shove you into a higher bracket at exactly the wrong moment. Which means these quiet years right now, the ones you're spending worrying, are actually the most valuable tax planning window you will ever have. Used right, they can lower your tax bill for the rest of your life. And the third is health. At 67, Medicare is already carrying you. Good. But it doesn't cover everything. And the big one, long-term care, is the expense that can undo a solid plan. I'm not going to fearmonger it, because most of retirement isn't spent in a care facility. But it belongs in your plan as a possibility you've decided how to handle. Through insurance, through earmarked savings, or through the equity sitting in your house, instead of a landmine you're pretending isn't there. Notice what none of those three are. None of them are, you don't have enough. They're not about the size of your pile. They're about the handful of decisions around it when you claim, how you withdraw, how you handle taxes and health. Get those right, and $800,000 at 67 isn't just enough. It's a comfortable, unremarkable, sleep-through-the-night retirement. So let's answer the question you came here with. Am I fooling myself with $800,000 at 67? If you're planning to walk out and spend like you still earn $95,000, ignore Social Security timing, and never look at the tax window, then yes, you could talk yourself into trouble even with $1 million. The number was never the problem. The plan was. But if you do the honest thing, figure out what your life actually costs, turn on the guaranteed income you already earned, keep a cushion for the bad years, and make those few permanent decisions on purpose instead of by accident hour, then no, you're not fooling yourself. You're one of the ones who quietly got it right and spent years being scared for nothing. You didn't need $2 million. You never did. You needed to see your own number clearly, and now you can. If this pulled even a little weight off your chest, do two things for me. Run your own 5 lines with that guide in the description while it's fresh. Your real spending, your real Social Security number from SSA.gov, your own gap, because the peace doesn't come from my example, It comes from seeing yours. And then remember, none of this is me telling you what to do with your specific life. It's the math, laid out honest. Take your numbers to a fee-only fiduciary and let them pressure test the details. That's not the scary step. That's the victory lap. $800,000. 67 years old. You're going to be okay. Now go prove it to yourself.